Welcome to Coping with COVID-19. I'm Dr. Allie Sharma, a psychiatrist, mental health advocate, fellow human, and mother of two. The COVID-19 pandemic is challenging the usual pillars that keep us grounded throughout our lives. As a psychiatrist, every day I am supporting people through their journeys, and what I've come to see throughout my career is that there is power in connection and in collectively coping through times like this. My goal with this interview series is to create a safe space to collectively share our stories and offer ideas for maintaining mental health and finding the silver lining in light of this health crisis. Please note that the contents of Coping with COVID-19 are for informational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on Coping with COVID-19. Today, I am joined by Dr. Christin Drake, who's a psychiatrist in private practice in New York City, a professor, and a women's mental health expert. So, Christin, it's so lovely to have you here on our interview series. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I know that we chose a topic about love and relationships during the time of COVID. So let's dive right in. As a fellow psychiatrist and human being, how do you think COVID-19 and this pandemic and the way we are operating now under quarantine or social distancing is changing the way we think about our most intimate relationships?
I think that, the focus that we've had to have during this pandemic on keeping ourselves safe has really changed the way we see people who are outside of our closest circles and those inside. And so we've really had to change the way we think about proximity to others, and I think really turned inward to focus more intensely on our closest relationships.
And let me, if you don't mind, dive deeper into your life. Like, what have you been personally experiencing in your life? I know you have a family, you're a psychiatrist. So how has it been affecting you?
Yeah, I think in our homes, in our own homes, and I've seen this, personally and with friends and in my practice, really the profound impact of spending all of our time together, trying to do all of the things that we need to function, work, school, play, socializing, thinking about our careers, even in one shared space, has been incredibly challenging. I think for romantic relationships, couples who are sharing a home have really lost their privacy, and lost any opportunity for longing. This has really been on my mind. I think that some of us are really dependent on this element of longing, of missing our partner, of the fantasy that can go along with that. We may or may not have known that until just now, until it's missing. And the impact that has on the time that you do have together, your desire for each other, your desire for time and conversation and connection, your desire for connecting to your sex life is really a challenge right now.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you're saying, and I was just thinking, if there isn't that opportunity for longing because of close proximity, what does that do to the dynamics within a relationship and discord? Because what I'm seeing a lot, as you probably are as well, is that the close proximity is causing a lot of strife, or if people are put together with family members that they haven't been with in a while, old dynamics are coming up, and it can be very confronting, right? Both from a romantic relationship perspective, but also with kids and other people in the home.
Yes, absolutely. I think with kids, we are I've been thinking about this, experiencing it with my own children. I mean, I think about it pre-COVID too. This really difficult push and pull for parents of missing the children, and you can't wait to get home to them, and then having the experience just after you arrive of being exhausted by them. um, and like, well, we experience this as sort of difficult in our everyday lives. I've come to think about how essential, this time away from them and missing them and reminding ourselves of all of the wonderful parts of being them is, like how helpful it is to sort of get us through the times when it's more challenging to parent.
Absolutely. So switching gears for a moment, because the other thing that's been on my mind are those who are living alone during this time of social distancing
Yeah.
and also struggling with not being able to date as usual. So what are your thoughts on that, dating in the time of COVID-19?
Yeah. This is a real theme that we're seeing, I think, across like many elements of many aspects of human life, is the loss of sort of momentum or potential, and I think it applies to dating. I'm hearing lots of stories of the first. Um, an interruption here after the first few dates that were encouraging, and it's really quite painful for people to lose that, and not to be able to have a sort of distraction or a moving forward, because it's very difficult. And people are doing creative things, dating online and dating via FaceTime and keeping connections by phone, but those early days of dating are so dependent on attraction and physical attraction and being close to someone. So it really is a loss, and I think people are experiencing it that way, as a loss of time and opportunity. Um,
Yeah, I agree. And I think, for those, I mean, there's so many different configurations of relationships, but for those who are starting a new relationship, this
mm,
is a period where, perhaps the paradigm is that it turns from a new relationship into a long distance relationship, so to speak,
yes,
right? So it's an
yes,
opportunity to get to know each other over the phone, over text, by conversations, but through not seeing each other. So in a sense, everything is on hold until you see someone next. But for those who
mhm,
aren't in a relationship, it could be an opportunity to connect digitally to others, right?
yes,
But it's different. And I agree. I think there is a huge loss around this, a loss in our
mhm,
normal routines, the normal ways we reach out to people, right? It's
yeah.
completely changed. But I do think it is possible to date during this time.
I
It's just
agree.
different.
I
Yeah.
agree. And in some ways, it may be, more efficient. We've all seen, um, in our lives and in our practices, like how rather inefficient, online dating has become. Um, that people are having to spend a lot of time trying to arrange dates and trying to meet people, and there's just a lot of sort of nonsense that goes on. And I do think there's opportunity here now that people are available and looking for connection, and it might be easier to just have a more straightforward conversation with someone to sort of catch people at home, and there aren't as many distractions. So I do think that there could be some opportunity in this time for people to date, at least to begin.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so just to my final question,
Okay.
just to wrap up. So, what are your tips from your perspective for love relationships during this time?
I would encourage a little bit of time, if you can find it, to really reflect on the elements of our pre-COVID lives that supported our love relationships, even if they were sort of automatic, not top of mind, and to, to think about those rituals, and to the extent that we can, to recreate them in our sort of current state of isolation. It might seem a little bit hokey, to make a special date night, even though you have dinner together every night, or to have a lunch date with your kids, on the carpet in the living room, just to have something that's a little bit special, a little bit yours, and can recreate some of the things that were promoting connection and supporting the relationships before the crisis.
I think that's beautiful. And perhaps even with the date night, dressing up.
Yes.
Right? Put on a little makeup, put on something nice.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Enact the date.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the privacy piece, it's really tricky, I think, to sort of see your partner all of the time in all of their states of beauty and less beauty.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we know there's some information out there in the media on divorce rates increasing in China. And I was just looking this morning in the US, divorce lawyers are starting to get a lot of calls. So people that had been preparing for divorce are now going through with it, right? So there is a reverberating effect of this quarantine. But I think we're talking about how to preserve your relationship, right?
Yes.
And create these moments where you find each other again.
Yes, and to really prioritize it. It's easy, it's so easy to lose focus. It seems like a given. You're stuck at home together anyway. But I think as people are sort of more settled into their routines now, and hopefully a bit more comfortable than they were, I would encourage making space and making time for tending to this, being protective of it.
Thank you so much, Christin. It's so lovely to speak with you.
You too, Allie.
Now, let's get clinical. Two things stand out to me from a clinical perspective from what Dr. Drake said. First, longing and desire transformed as we are quarantined with loved ones. And second, longing and desire transform during this time if we are separated from loved ones. For the first, Dr. Christin Drake pointedly calls out how the experience of longing and desire in conjunction with proximity to our loved ones, for example, if you are in quarantine with your romantic partner or children, has been redefined in this time of COVID-19. Does this sound familiar to you? Is the lack of space, privacy, and variability within your household starting to wear on you? Are you longing to long again for your partner and perhaps don't know how to overcome this challenging situation? Dr. Drake offers a suggestion to try to create special moments even within the close proximity of our new lives. For example, try out a date night, get dressed up, make a special dinner by candlelight, and toy with your fantasies and desires even during this time. It may seem trivial, but trust us, it is not. Make this a priority, as Dr. Drake emphasized, and the energy into this can go a long way for your mental health and your relationships. Second, what about those who are separated from loved ones? What can you do? Find ways to connect. Write love letters. Express your deepest emotions. Build your foundation through communications as we would in a long-distance relationship. Have FaceTime dinners, parties, talks, cups of tea, and stay connected to loved ones. We know that social support is protective for mental health, and it's even more important during this time of COVID-19 quarantine to do so, even if it feels difficult or altered. Thank you for listening to Let's Get Clinical and Coping with COVID-19 by Dr. Allie, in conversation with Dr. Christin Drake on love in the time of COVID. Thank you for listening to Coping with COVID-19 by Dr. Allie. As always, if you are in crisis or you think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255 to talk to a skilled trained counselor at a crisis center in your area at any time. If you are located outside of the United States, call your local emergency line immediately. What you have heard on coping with COVID-19 does not represent what would take place during a psychiatric assessment or an actual therapy session.